Hello and welcome to Inside The Octagon. I'm John Gooden, alongside top UFC analyst Dan Hardy. UFC 205 will be an historic occasion and an absolute spectacle. One of the main ingredients to this is the 3 belts being put on the line. This time we turn our attention to the co-main event and the welterweight title fight between the champion Tyron Woodley and the challenger Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Woodley's first round obliteration of Robbie Lawler at UFC 201 stunned the world and made him king of the shark-infested waters of the welterweight division. But coming for his crown is Stephen Thompson, who has been siding through opponents on his way to a 7-fight win streak. Dan, I am super excited about this fight. Let's take a look at the facts and the stats then. Physically, a couple of things that we can talk about. This here, leg reach. Now, it's new. We haven't seen leg reach before here on Inside The Octagon. Joe Rogan was calling for leg reach because it's mixed martial arts and we don't just need the span of boxing. Yep. We're going to talk about this in more detail when you show exactly how Wonderboy Thompson sets up his kicking game, but he can use his leg like a jab. Yes,
even though he has a slight reach disadvantage. I mean, it's only an inch, but
Woodley's not going to use his legs like Wonderboy does.
Definitely not.
And that leg reach is longer than the arm reach. So it's just something that we wanted to note there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the stats, very high takedown defence there for Thompson.
And improving as well, you know, since he started working with Chris Weidman, you know, his takedown defence, his scrambles and his reaction times are starting to improve, you know, dramatically from one fight to another. And he knows it's going to be a key in this fight against Woodley for sure. If he's going to be putting Woodley under pressure, he's going to be defending takedowns in the process.
And this is important. 3rd highest striking defence in welterweight history.
Which he's going to need against an experienced kid. I mean, we've got 20-0 here, but I think if you look at his Wikipedia page, it's 57-0.
Yeah, believe so.
And with 40 knockouts. I think there's a lot of experience that is not being taken into account that he's able to bring to the table in this fight.
Yeah, Faraz Zahabi actually said that he believed Stephen Thompson was the best striker in the world. And he's seen a couple.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a fantastic fighter with many attributes. Works with Carlos Machado, who's his brother-in-law. Yep. I believe that's a good guy to have in the family. And says that wrestling is his 2nd favourite part of mixed martial arts.
Right.
So people often underestimate that. Well, let's see what the world has been saying, Dan. Let's open up this time with some questions that we got in from Twitter. Let's go here. This is from Natraj Man United. How will Wonderboy deal with Woodley's power and ability to cover distance?
That is ultimately the big question when you're facing Tyron Woodley. Thank you for your question. Well, there are 2 ways of him doing this. One is the long-range kicking, and 2 is the takedown defence. We know his takedown defence is improving. We know he's got great long-range kicking. Yeah. It's all about maintaining between those 2 ranges, controlling that distance so he's able to fight in the ranges in which he's most dangerous, which is between the long-range kicking and the takedown defence. That is his window of opportunity. Obviously, Tyron Woodley can exploit the close range with his overhand right, and he can also exploit the wrestling, but he doesn't lean on his wrestling nearly as much as people expect him to.
It's the threat.
It is exactly that. I mean, he's got 3 takedowns in his whole UFC career, and they were all in the Condit fight. So I would expect him to try and utilise that a little more in this fight, especially given the fact that Wonderboy and Condit are both very dynamic and unpredictable strikers. I think there could be some, you know, some lessons from the Condit fight that could be employed against Wonderboy for sure.
OK, well, let's take a look.
OK. Let's start with Wonderboy. As I said, it's all about the range. It's all about controlling that. And he knew that was going to be an issue with Matt Brown as well. He knew he was going to have to use those long-range kicks to keep him on the back foot and to punish him as he steps forward. You can see him. Look how he's tapping with that front leg. Can you see how he's just kind of tapping? He's always threatening. Basically, what he's doing at this point is he's showing Matt Brown that at any point he can lift that leg up and kick with it. It's just a reminder that it's there. As we saw in his UFC debut against Stitchen, it was all about the kicking game. It was all about maintaining that range against Jake Ellenberger. Again, that nice lead hook kick, which then led for him to close the distance because he could see Ellenberger was hurt. And then we saw his great takedown defense here. And the striker mentality, as soon as he lands, he starts striking. Same thing again with Cote. He sprawls out, immediately starts to punish. It's that striker mentality. There's an opportunity to punch him here. Beautiful balance, immediately pushes him up, starts striking again. So he's got good takedown defense, he's got good balance. And if you can start picking him off and start working away at him with his legs, it's going to keep Tyron Woodley active, it's going to keep him questioning. And then there's always that. That's always the X factor in a Wonder Boy fight. He's always got that beautiful one-kick knockout power. As we saw him there, I'm gonna come back to this knockout because I love the footwork and I want to relate it to his hand striking. And he's a Power Ranger. Yeah. Just a great opportunistic kick, just lifted it up and caught him across the face. And it's one of those kicks that you wouldn't have seen coming because most people just don't throw techniques like that.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about his dexterity of his hips, but I think we'll have a look at Tyron Woodley first. So the champion making his first title defence, wanted a big money fight, didn't believe that Wonder Boy was the big money fight, which I think has irked the camps there. But as I saw in Champ Camp, he's been going around in a couple of different places, looking in good form ahead of this one. Yes,
he does look great. And he knows what he's getting into with Wonder Boy as well. He knows that he's going to have to negate that range, that long-range kicking game. The good thing about Tyron Woodley is he does have that 0 to 60, that amazing ability to cover distance very quickly, which I want to talk about in a second. But if we look at how he starts fights, you'll tend to see him very patient. He tries to feel out with the jab, and then he starts looking for the range with the right hand quite early on. He did it in the Condit fight, which we'll see in a second. And as you can see it here, he goes uppercut, overhand right with cross check and straight into a front headlock, back to his wrestling game. He knows it's there. If he gets backed up against the fence, which is possible in this fight, this is where he starts to use his takedowns. Great timing on him, straight in, hands together, and just a small lift, and then he's down. Now, he's probably one of the only fighters that we can count takedowns from low kicks as well. I mean, the low kicks against Jake Shields were vicious. Just look how he takes him off his feet here, which is going to be a key against Wonder Boy, who stands so side on. This is what I'm talking about with the 0 to 60, though. Look at this. Boom. Now, there's a reason that this works. There's a reason that this works so well. One is that he's right-hand dominant. Just like Anthony Johnson, he backs people up and he thunders at them with that right hand. With Anthony Johnson, he likes to walk people down. With Tyron Woodley, he's got that sprint. And what he does is a beautiful smoke screen for the big overhand right that he throws. So as soon as people see Tyron Woodley move, they freeze because they know power's coming towards them. And he goes a feint 2, a rangefinder 1, and then comes over the top. It's a sprint as he's moving forward. I can't do it because he's at an angle as he's doing it. But as we watch this play through, let me just get rid of that. As we watch this play through, the big overhand right always finds a home because he's already got his opponent to freeze in front of him. You can see the panic. Look at that. Jay Heron's bringing his hands together because he's expecting a straight shot, which means that Tyron Woodley knows there's a window over the top for the punch. But that's already because he's created that smoke screen with the 2-1 before the overhand 2 comes. Catches him really clean, right in the temple. Look at that perfect placement of that. And Tyron Woodley just basically poured the pressure on after that. So it's feints with forward momentum. Exactly that combination, which is just a little confusing, and it needs half a second. That's it. It makes people freeze. It makes people... We see it here against Robbie Lawler. Now he feints for the shot on this one as well. Another feint, just something else to give Robbie Lawler something to think about. But if we watch this play through here, you can see how he's slowly backing Robbie Lawler up against the fence. He's testing with the lead hand. He's trying to read Robbie Lawler and seeing what his footwork's doing. Now, he's not bothered about giving a bit of range if he feels like it's necessary, but as soon as he starts to pressure, he lowers his level. You can see him loading. Now, here we go. There's the first 2. You can see, now, this is really short. Now, given the fact that they're up against the octagon here, he doesn't have the full distance to sprint across, so he shortens the technique. With Jay Heron, he threw them out quite long. Right. With this one, he throws them short. He gets the same reaction, but he goes 2-1 and then comes over the top here. So as we see, because he's not got the octagon behind Robbie Lawler to run into, he has to stifle it a little bit. He has to shorten the technique a little bit. Obviously didn't make too much difference. It didn't make any difference at all. He still opened that opportunity to land the overhand right, and we'll see it in this replay in a second here. And you can imagine the emotion that overtakes you in that circumstance. So here we go. Right, count them. So we go. There's the feint 2, there's the rangefinder 1, and that opens a big window just there, look. Hands are out in front of him because he's expecting straight punches, which means that the overhand right comes flying around the side and catches him clean on the side of the head. Let's just watch it. Boom, there it is. But it's all set up by that 2-1 and over the top. And as he's doing it, you'll see his whole body is leaning forward. Everything is about that forward momentum, which is also why he likes doing it up against the fence, because he knows if he doesn't land a clean shot, he can crash, and then he's into his takedown game.
Okay. Well, he has teamed up with some pretty decent heads for this one, Dean Thomas and Duke Rufus. So they are some very good guys strategically to try and work out Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, and especially Dean Thomas with so much experience in martial arts. He's going to be able to pull on all of his experiences working with different fighters and his own competition as well to kind of piece together the kind of game plan he would expect from Wonder Boy and then put it into play. And
one of the guys that he has brought in for this is Sage Northcutt, a guy that he believes is more powerful and faster than Wonder Boy. Now, I love Sage Northcutt. I'm not sure a guy in a different division is going to be faster and more powerful than Wonder Boy Thompson. However, it's an interesting choice because that karate background, that dynamic striking style, they're obviously trying to emulate.
It will certainly give him some different looks. You know, it will certainly give him some new things to play with, and some new understanding as to what a karate-based practitioner is going to be throwing at him in a sparring match. I mean, Sage Northcutt's going to come in. He's training with the world champion at welterweight. He's going to be really enthusiastic. He's going to be trying to give everything he's got and trying to be as helpful and as useful as a training partner as it is. So that's a very beneficial relationship for both guys, not only for Sage to be in the champ camp, but also for the champ to have an up-and-coming, hungry prospect that is a very, very talented athlete at the same time and quite similar to his opponent. Possibly not as powerful, but maybe as quick. I mean, he is quite a fast fighter, and he's also got good takedown defence as well, which is going to give Woodley something else to work around.
Well, let's keep that in mind as we take a look at Wonder Boy then.
Well, this is my favourite playlist because this shows the danger range for Wonder Boy. We know he's got good kicking, we know he's got good takedown defence, but it's all about how he leaps in and lands clean, accurate, precise shots with power and catches people completely unawares. Now, Chris Clements is a great kickboxer in his own right, but he just couldn't keep up with Wonder Boy. It was like we talk about with the 0 to 60 with Woodley. Wonder Boy's got it as well, but he disguises it better. It's a bit more of a smokescreen. He's not quite as dynamic with his power as Woodley is necessarily. He has to set it up. He has to be a bit more of a technician about it. Now, going back to the first fight that he had against Stitchin, where he used that, he threw the right hand and then he came up with that real nice, lazy slap across the face that knocked him out. Watch this footwork here. This is against Whittaker. Now, what we're going to see here is, I know it's a little blurred, but please bear with me. So there we go. There's his right hand. He's going to throw this across and he's going to land it clean in this fight. But watch what he does with his feet as it happens, because this is where his secondary option is. So he throws the big right hand, it lands. Now look how he stepped through. Look at his positioning now. He's actually punched and he's actually stepped inside the guard of his opponent. That gives him a lot of options to kick off that front leg. But also, as he's throwing the right hand, if he knows it doesn't land cleanly, he's got that leg to follow up like he did in
Which is a beautiful technique.
And so unpredictable. So unpredictable. Something that Sage might be able to look at and go, I can do that, I can throw that against Woodley and give him that experience so he can start working around it. But Wonder Boy's probably got a bag full of these tricks. This is just the one that he uses the most because it's the most comfortable for him. It's something that Woodley's got to watch out for, that unpredictable nature. Here it is again, look. You can see he just lifts that leg up and bam. And that's because he knows he didn't land that right hand clean. He's very good at adapting in fights. And if you can back Woodley up against the fence, even if he doesn't land clean shots all the way through, he's going to start opening windows of opportunity. I mean, Rory McDonald did a great job here, defending half-hearted takedowns, stuffing him, pushing him back up against the fence, and then just picking him off with light, continuous work. This is where Woodley's going to start to fall apart, when he's under pressure and he can't put a game plan together. Now, we talk about adaptability in fights. This is perfect because we have the same camera angle for the same punch that he throws twice in the fight. The first one falls kind of short, the second one lands with devastating effect. Now, as Patrick Cote's pushing forward, he's starting to use this window here. He's starting to circle towards his right and catch him with the right hand as he's moving forward, trying to punch across him as he's running in. So watch this first one. So he throws the first one. As Cote moves forward, you see him duck away, and there's the first one. But as you can see, as he's throwing that, although the punch is going out, the punch is firing in this direction, his body is moving away. So he's effectively stealing power from the punch. As he's throwing it, he's kind of snatching the punch away. He makes a note of this, a mental note. There wasn't enough follow-through in that punch. So we adapt, we learn from it, and then we move on. So this is what happens next. He backs up, he knows that didn't work, but he's made a mental note that that range is there, that option is there. Now, as Cote does the same thing again, and we're later in the fight now, we're a round later in the fight, which is worth noting. He's found the same situation, he's found the same opportunity. He knows that Cote is going to start pushing forward because he doesn't want to deal with Thompson at range. So then what we see is as Cote rushes forward, Thompson makes a beautiful adjustment. In fact, I'm going to play it full speed because we've got a nice replay afterwards. So watch, as Cote rushes forward, bang, beautiful. Now watch the replay. This is where he's making the adjustment. Previously, as he was throwing this punch, he was pulling his body weight away from the punch. But as you can see here now, he's pushing his chest forward, which means that all of that momentum that he was stealing from the punch is now moving into it. So when this punch lands, he can go all the way through his opponent with it. A lot of arrows on the screen, but you get what I'm trying to say. So as we see this play through, you can see he's pushed his chest really far forward. So when the punch lands, there's still a bend in his arm. He can still punch through with an extra probably 8 inches of reach there.
He hasn't retracted that left shoulder.
Exactly. He's not stealing power from the punch. It was an adaptation in the middle of the fight. And look at that. I mean, he couldn't get a cleaner shot. Look at that. And then he gets sprayed by the sweat coming out of Patrick Cote's hair for his efforts.
But he'll take it for the knockout.
You would with a knockdown like that. It was really nice. And Patrick Cote, as tough as he is, he got up, he acknowledged it. He was like, yep, good punch. He caught me clean. That's Wonderboy for you. His ability to adapt in the fight. So if Woodley starts to get predictable, if he starts to follow the same game plan, even if it's failing, Wonderboy is going to find a way to pick him off and punish him for it.
Just one quick point before we move on to Woodley. So do you believe that there is something very special about the dexterity of Wonderboy Thompson's hips that allows him to kick in a certain way that we don't see from other UFC fighters?
Yeah.
He does it very differently. It's not like a Muay Thai kick. He kind of halves the distance of it, and he's very quick off of that front foot. It's almost awkward.
Yes.
When you see how that hip turns over.
It is. He's got very open hips, much like BJ Penn does, which he demonstrated very well on the ground. We've not seen it a great deal in the striking range, but if you think in the ways that which Wonderboy's legs move, he's got quite a long, wide stance.
Yeah.
He stays quite side on, which means his first line of defence is to pick that leg up and fire it out sideways.
Yeah.
So he needs that box split flexibility, which a lot of fighters don't have. Even from a Thai boxing perspective, we're very square. Hips are very square, so everything comes through from a square
circular
hip.
as well.
Exactly. We don't have that nice flared out.
Which takes longer.
Which takes longer, admittedly, but you can also, as we saw with Stitchen, catch people in unawares because, like I said, he threw the right hand, and because he has that dexterity in his hip, he's able to just allow that to flick out and catch him.
Yeah.
And because he's got the flexibility and the dexterity in his hips, he stays loose, which means that there's no tension in the kick, which means he allows the momentum to flow through and gets the full power into the extension.
OK, glad I asked that. So let's move on to Woodley then.
Yes.
If everything goes his way, what does a perfect round look like? OK.
The thing with Woodley is we know what he's capable of, we know what he's got to do to win the fight. You know, there are certain fighters that you can kind of go, OK, well, Damian Maia's a good example. If Damian Maia's going to win this fight, he's going to smother you, he's going to drag you down to the floor, he's going to take you back and choke you out.
Right.
Other fighters, like Wonderboy, have lots of different options they can pull from. With Woodley, it's very much about making each stage work of the game plan so the game plan comes to fruition. Because if it doesn't, that's when he's going to start having problems. So let's go perfect round for Woodley, right? Starts off nice and relaxed. Here against Condit, you can see he was very patient, very calm, keeping a good range as well. So anything that's unpredictable, he's way out of the way of it. He can see it coming already. And then as soon as his opponent starts to pressure, as soon as he starts to feel like he's being restricted in his space, he's got the big piston of a right hand that comes over the top and pushes them back. Same against Koscheck here, and this is something else that's going to be key, especially for a guy that stands side on, bang. That low kick.
He really loads those bad boys up, doesn't he?
It's ridiculous. Well, we saw it in the Shields fight, how he took Shields off his feet a couple of times with those low kicks. And with Wonderboy standing so side on, this is the danger in this stance. If you stand in a square stance, you can pick that front leg up to check. With this, he's exposed. He's going to be eating those kicks to the back of his thigh, his hamstring, which is going to slow him down. It's going to take some of that snap away from that lead kick. So that's going to be key. Let's continue. So he's got the kicks, he's got the right hand. Once he's backed you up against the fence, like I was talking about, he's got that 0 to 60 explosion, but if it doesn't land, he's then crowded you. He's got you up against the fence, and this is something that we've seen Wonderboy struggle with in the Matt Brown fight, where he does get out-wrestled by people that can grind, and we know that Woodley can grind if he needs to. He's got the wrestling pedigree in his back pocket. Now, Wonderboy, as we know, has been working with Weidman, so he's going to get back to his feet. I'm expecting him to be able to scramble and create some space, which means that then Woodley has now got to start pressuring forward with the right hand again. He's got to remind Wonderboy why he's so dangerous, and when he lands that right hand, he can't let Wonderboy off. As we see, Ellenberger clips him here, but doesn't manage to land the following shots to get the fight finished. Whereas Woodley, with that right hand dominant, bang, bang,
it's
bang.
violent, isn't it?
It's so difficult to stay away from. It's easier to defend against a guy that just flurries like crazy than a guy that picks individual shots because he knows he's got a hell of a weapon in his hand. And he can pick those individual shots, which is really going to be the danger for Wonderboy. I'm not necessarily expecting the clean one-punch knockout because Wonderboy is very good at riding shots. He's very good at recovering as well, as we saw in the Ellenberger fight. But if he does go down, the danger is that scramble on the floor where Woodley is just picking those big, powerful single shots.
It's really interesting. I've really enjoyed looking at Wonderboy. He's a fantastic athlete, but Tyron Woodley, the champion, so powerful, and as you say, it makes for a real clash of styles.
Most definitely.
Looking forward to this one. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Inside the Octagon, and there's plenty more where that came from. Next time, we brace ourselves for some serious Polish power as we focus on the strawweight title as Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Karolina Kowalkiewicz face off for the first time as professionals. And we couldn't forget two of the baddest middleweights on the planet. So we also bring you analysis of Chris Weidman versus Yoel Romero. Well, that's all from us. Remember to like, share and get involved in the comments section below and on Twitter using the hashtag InsideTheOctagon. So we'll see you next time.
Welcome to the Empire State. Stand up. I'm a BK brother. My own Madison Square, catch me at the fight.
Conor McGregor!
Sensational. From New York City, right, Cam?
You're damn right.
Big shot!